Hi everyone! So today I'm going to teach you how to make Mickey mouse ears, or Minnie mouse ears like the one I'm wearing today. I find that they're really expensive if you want to buy them off Etsy or the Disney store itself, so I found a way to make them for myself. So let's get started! Okay, here are the materials to make our Minnie Mouse or Mickey ears. The first thing and the most exciting thing you're going to want to do is you're going to want to find your fabric that you're going to use for the ears. So I found this one at Joann Fabrics. I think it's really cute because it has like the dancing Mickey Mouse and the Minnie Mouse, and then it has some of them like holding flowers. It's really cute. The fabric is, I think, the most exciting thing about this. I've seen some really cool fabric on Etsy too if you're not finding what you want at like Joann Fabrics or any other local fabric store. It's kind of cool. And then the second part is you're going to pick out the fabric for your bow. So today I'm going to show you how to make a tulle bow, and I found this fabric also at Joann Fabrics. It's really sparkly and red, and I really like it. You can also make fabric bows. That's a little different, and I can kind of show you how to change that up when we get to that part. So once the most exciting part is done, you're also going to need a headband. This headband is about 1 inch wide or so. I definitely wouldn't go any thinner than this. You could, but it's gonna not have as much like surface area to glue your ears to. You could go bigger if you wanted to, whatever's available to you. I went with white just because it's gonna match the ears a little bit better. You're also going to want to find ribbon or something to kind of create a border or go over your two ears when we stick them together. Today I'm going to use this like white gauzy ribbon like this, and then I'm going to put these pearls are going to go over it. So those are the most exciting part of picking out your ears. Everything else kind of comes down to what's available. So I'm also going to use a button today on my bow. I found these really cute buttons at Joann Fabrics as well, but once again you can also get them off Etsy or any other place that sells buttons. And let's see, that's over there. So you're also going to need some cardboard. This is a leftover Amazon box, just to show you that I need cardboard, and we're going to use it later to make the bow as well. You're going to need some felt, either felt or like stuffing you would use for a stuffed animal or a pillow. Personally, I use felt more than I use the stuffing or the batting, so it makes sense to me to get the felt. And you're going to want something that's going to kind of go with your fabric. So if I'm using a white fabric, so I wanted a white felt to go behind it so it doesn't stand through. If you're using like a blue or a purple or a green fabric, you're going to want to get like a matching felt color to go under it. The white's also really helpful because it's going to take away from like the brown of the cardboard box as well. So you're going to need those. You're also going to need, for our tulle bow, you're going to need some thread. If you're making a fabric one, you may need it. You probably won't, but you never know. And then on to the tools. So I have, my hot glue gun is warming up right now, and I have lots and lots of extra glue sticks. You're gonna, these are the tools that I have. If you have different cutting tools at your house, I'm sure they'll work just fine. So I have my trusty pair of scissors, a permanent marker. You can use a pen or a pencil, whatever works. I have a rotary tool for cutting fabric. I highly recommend it if you're cutting fabric often, especially these kind of make weird shapes. So for me, it's personally much easier just to use this, and it has a fun button, which I like playing with. And then you're also probably going to want something to cut the cardboard with. I find that scissors and the rotary tool don't do the best job with cardboard, so I have an X-Acto knife. If you are cutting cardboard frequently, I recommend a nice X-Acto knife. I've had like crafty cute ones before, and they just don't get the job done nearly as well as this one does. So those are all the tools that I'm using, and let's get started. So for these ears, you need almost like a pattern to cut out the three parts. So we're going to make 2 ears, but each ear consists of a front and a back. So there's 4 sides that we're making. And then each side needs its own felt. So I like to use 2 pieces of felt per ear. So you're going to need 4 cardboard ears and then 8 felt inserts to go with them. And for me, I found this pattern online. So I'm making no sew ears, which means I'm only using my glue gun. If you were going to make these and you were going to use your sewing machine and you're going to hand stitch them, that's awesome. I just didn't feel like bringing down my entire sewing machine. So I found this pattern online from another woman that makes these ears, and she found it from somebody else. So I guess we're all borrowing each other's patterns. And I modified mine a little bit. So the ear cutting line is the one that you would use to cut your material. I don't use this one because I'm not sewing them, I'm gluing them, and I need more fabric than you would if you were sewing them. So I don't use this one. The ear sewing line one I use to cut out my cardboard, and then the foam and batting one I use to cut out the felt. If you're planning on stuffing them, obviously you don't need to cut out the felt. When I do usually cut out my felt, I like to fold it in half and do it, just because that way I'm not cutting out a lot of extra felt, and the more time I can save, the better. I like to use a Sharpie pen or a permanent marker pen. I've done it before with like a normal Sharpie or normal permanent marker, and I found that the permanent marker rubs off the felt, and then you're getting permanent marker all over your fingers, which then you're transferring to your fabric, which we don't want. So I would use a pen or something that's not going to rub off the felt. And I used my X-Acto knife to cut out the cardboard. Okay, so I already did that ahead of the time though, so you all didn't have to watch me do that. What I also do is when you're done cutting out the cardboard, what I do is you put 2 sides together. So the 2 sides, those are not the right sides. See, this is why I number them so I know which ones go with. Okay, so you're going to want to put the 2 sides together, and you're going to want to trim off all the extra so that the sides of the ears are flush. And this is going to be really important when it's time to stick these 2 pieces together, because if they're not, then you're not going to have a flush part where it is up top, and it's going to make it really, really difficult when you're going and then putting your ribbon over this. It gets all kind of like lumpy and gross. To be honest, when we do this, it's I'm probably going to make it look a little lumpy, but that's why we have the pearls to put over it so that you can't see all the lumpy bumpy bits. So it's really important to like trim those up. And then what I do once you trim them up is that I label them. As you saw, you can kind of figure out, it's easier to figure out that way. And then the parts that I labeled are the parts that are going to stick together. So this part and this part is going to be where the fabric goes. And then these are the 2 sides that are going to get glued together eventually. How I typically do this is, now that these are all cut out, everybody gets their own set of felt. And then you cut out the fabric. So typically how I would want to do this is that I purposely picked this fabric because the different parts of the Minnie and the Mickey Mouses are far enough apart that when I do take one of these ears, like one part is going to really, or one pair of them is really nicely going to fit inside the ears. So we're not going to get, you know, one set and then like half a Minnie or a Mickey Mouse in there. I like it kind of to be centered. If you were doing something like that, it's just try to find a fabric that's going to work with what you're trying to do and how you want it to look. So I already went through and trimmed some of these pieces, and this is the last part of the one I'm doing. So I believe this one I'm gonna do the flowered one that they're doing. So this is the side that all the hot glue is gonna go on, and then the felt is gonna go, oh, this is also important. When you have the, like, any lines from the marker, you want to put that on the inside, because otherwise it's going to shine through, especially with this, because this is like a white fabric. Don't worry too much about the cardboard coming through on the edges. You're not going to see it too much. If that's something that really bothers you, obviously you're more than welcome to cut your felt a little bit nicer than I cut this time. So you're going to want to flip your fabric over so the right side is down, and you're going to want to figure out exactly how you want your ear to lay. So I think this should be about right. A lot of with these is kind of like what my dad used to say, where it's like measure twice, cut once. And I have found myself really using that. Okay. So let's see where we're at. We want to make sure it's going to stay nice and centered. I'm going to move it up just a wee bit. Oh, hypothetically. Ooh, or drop it. Let's see if we can move it up. The felt kind of makes it hard to move up sometimes. I think that's, let's see. Yeah, that looks about right. Okay, so then we're going to plop this back down. Make sure it's all flat. And this is where the rotary tool comes in handy, because I don't have to pick up the fabric or whatnot. I can just slice away. Sometimes with the tool, one thread will stick out every now and then, but it's not the end of the world. I tried doing this with scissors the first time I did it, and it made things a little bit more difficult. I also recommend, if this is something you're going to do, or if you're really into arts and crafts, and you do a lot of them like I do, getting a cutting mat. So this is my kitchen counter, but obviously I don't want to like use the X-Acto knife or the rotary tool on the kitchen counter. So this is a self-healing mat. I think it's like, what, 18 inches by 24 inches. Got it off Amazon for probably like 30 bucks. And it self-heals so that when you cut into it, like I just did, most of the time you can't really see it that bad, or yeah, I can't see it that bad. Okay, so we're gonna measure this one more time, because we want to make sure it lines up really nice. Make sure our felt is all, I would say that's probably good. Yeah, close enough. Okay, now here comes time for the fun part, the hot gluing. If you are not experienced with hot glue, you're probably going to burn yourself. I've burnt myself on hot glue many a time. It doesn't hurt too badly after a few seconds. Alright, so when we're doing this and we're all lined up, the first thing that we're going to want to hot glue is the bottom. If you're using a fabric like this is just like a typical, you know, like cotton weave. It doesn't stretch very well. So it's really, you really have to watch it when you're like gluing it and pulling it, that you're not pulling too much, and then by the time you get over here it's all off center. If you're using something that is more stretchy, like a jersey, or I used a sequence fabric once that was really stretchy, or whatever, that is you have a little bit more flexibility with it. But I like to trim in the center, because this will keep it, when I fold it, from like creating bubbles or wrinkles. So, alright, here we go. First hot glue. I also have lots of extra hot glue sticks, because you do go through quite a few hot glue sticks with this. Oop, we folded over. We didn't want to do that. Okay. There we go. Alright, now always make sure to, when you start, because I've done this before, that you're doing it on the right side, because if you're not, then it can cause some issues when you go back to redo it. So, also, hot glue is very stretchy at points. Look one more time just to make sure we're all good, ready to go. Yeah, that looks about right. That looks good. Okay, so now I usually start right here, and we're just gonna do little bits at a time. And you're gonna take it, and I kind of like use my finger and turn. Ow. Yeah, see, first one out of the gate, already burning myself. All right, we're gonna come back and we're gonna trim all that later, so don't worry too much about it. Oh, I think we also need Another hot glue stick. Starting out great. Oh, get that off there. There we go. Alright, and like I said, you kind of like take it. You want to watch out for these wrinkle bits. That's why I kind of take it with my finger and turn it. And for some reason, I don't know why, but it gets it so that it doesn't wrinkle too much. Oh, I say that. Wrinkled a little bit right there. But see how we don't get too many wrinkles on the side? That's the cardboard that's right there, but it'll look fine once we put the ribbon and stuff over it, because you want it to look flat. There we go. And it's okay if your hot glue dries. You can always put more on. It's not the end of the world. It is typically, you know, the hottest when it comes out of the gun at first, so keep that in mind. We'll come back to that little part right there. It's okay if it wrinkles on the back. It's the front we don't want it to wrinkle on. There we go. And then the last part right here is always the tricky part, because it's kind of like where all the extra fabric goes. So you kind of have to like play with it really carefully. Okay. Alrighty. So, hold on one sec. Okay, just wanted to make sure we're still recording. This is my first time using this recording software and I wasn't quite sure. Okay. So now we're going to trim these. Sometimes it's a little tricky to trim. It's fine though. It all works out. It's all good. The more we trim it though, the less it's gonna have when we like go put it all together. Ooh, and then they go flying. It's alright. These ones aren't too bad. And then get the ends. And okay, so there is one. It's not quite centered, but it'll do just fine. There's one. And now we do all the other ones. Okay, so we have done all 4 of our ears. And I trimmed them all already and did my best to make sure they all lined up nicely. And now we are going to glue them together. So make sure you try to, once again, make sure everything kind of like lines up before we get gluing too much, because once you glue it, it's kind of hard to go back. And then we are going to load this puppy up. Oh, my glue stick. Silly glue stick. It does that sometimes. Just get all the glue on here. Okay. Now the trick with hot glue is that you have to work rather quickly. So make sure that more or less all lines up. I like to put a lot of pressure on it. Make sure you get all those edges in. Push those edges all together. Flip it over. Do the same on this one. Okay. Let's see. That looks pretty good. More or less. I'll take it. That works. This one's not too bad, but we'll still put the hot glue down just to be on the safe side. Okay. Onto the ribbon. So it looks like you don't want it to be complete, like the exact length. You want some left over. That's it, that's good. So we'll measure this there. Cut in half. All right. Oh, there we go. So we start off by lining this up. Make sure it's going to wrap all the way around nicely. We'll have a lot left over, but that's okay. Perfect. So we always want to start with like the bottom tail. Move my glue closer. And this is where you can get those hot glue burns, because this hot glue goes right through this ribbon. You can use whatever ribbon you want. I just have this one lying around. I did another set of ears where I did like a really pretty like purple satin ribbon. I really haven't done that many ears where I've used something other than this kind of ribbon. But the point of this is that you kind of just want to join it all together and make it an even surface so that when you go to put on those pearls, they have something kind of to sit on and they're not hiding in the seam. Okay, there we go. That's one. And let's measure out these pearls. Once again, we want to do enough that it has like a little tail at the end, but you know, you don't want to waste it. So you don't need it like too much. And actually, with the pearls, I typically don't have too much of a tail at the end, because otherwise it'll make it really tricky to put on the ears. So you're probably actually going to trim most of the tail. But, okay. Similarly, we kind of, pearls are really hard to hold sometimes because they move, but we want to leave like, sorry, I keep on going this way. You want to leave like, see how this lines up like that? That's pretty much how we want to leave it. And just like when we did the ribbon, we're just going to start off with a little bit at first and stick the pearls right in it. And then we'll come back and trim off that one right there. Stick it in there. And the glue, it's kind of weird. The glue, when you use the pearls, it kind of like holds it in really nicely. And it makes it almost like glows a little bit more because of the glue. It's like shiny. And we'll trim these. One. We'll trim this one. Two. Alright, and we have both of our ears. Okay, the next part that you're going to want to make is your bow. I already made this bow earlier, so we don't have to go through it. But how you want to do it is, like I said, this is 1/4 yard, and I got this as a yard. You want to unfold it so you can get the longest way possible, and then cut 2 strips of that. And then I had my strips, I think they were 5.5 inches in width, and then they were however long, probably a yard. And I had 2 of them, and then I laid them on top of each other. And then you take a piece of cardboard, and when you have the strips like this is 6 inches, and then you just kind of fold it over and over and over and over and over until you get your 5.5 by 6 inch tulle square. You kind of fold it like you would a paper fan, and then in the middle, that's when you use your thread and you tie it together. If you were doing that with a piece of fabric, you would want to, before you do that, fold in the top and the bottom so that it's not fraying at the edge. The tulle doesn't fray nearly as much as like regular fabric would, and you don't use a whole yard of it. You probably use a square that's like 9 inches by 11.5 inches. I think that's what I did last time. You can play with it, certainly, but you do the same thing where you have a rectangle with 4 edges that are all nice and looking nice, and then you fold it like you would a paper fan, and then you cinch the middle and glue it. But I already did that part because I'm very particular about that. And now, and then we're going to put buttons on them too, but we're going to glue everything down first. So we're going to line up our ears. I like to line mine up so that there is 2 inches in the middle. So 2 inches. And we're going to take our ears, decide if you want them both to be the same or different. I think they're cute different. And you're going to see where those are going to line up. So we're going to line them up like this. And as I said before, we measure once, cut twice. So this is going to go on here. And we're done. So the bow goes on last, but I'm just measuring to see how it's going to look. Okay. And then I glue down the ear. So I'm going to keep the headband where it is so that it's staying where it is. And then we're going to glue this, the inside of it. Get a nice chunk of glue in there because this is the part that's going to hold everything in. You don't want to put it directly against the mat because then it'll stick to the mat. So you want to hold it up a little bit and then press in. Get it so it stays more or less, and then we're going to go in and reinforce it with some glue. Now, because there you can see the glue, kind of, sort of, if you really don't like to see the glue, you could take more pearls and then put it all along the side of the ears if you really wanted to. I may do that later, but for right now I think it's good. Yeah, you can see a little bit of the glue. This is also up close though. So like what you see up close and what people are going to see when it's on your head are not the same. Thank God. Alright, the bow is going to be, tool bows can be always kind of tricky to put on because you want to make sure that like the bow looks cute without it looking like that, because that doesn't look like a bow. So I usually end up folding, I think, like this. There we go. And then we'll fold the edges in like this, make it all nice and center. Flip the top a little bit. Now this tool is very shiny, which is awesome, and glittery, not so awesome. I have red glitter all over the place. Alright, that looks about centered. We're gonna center it more here. Okay. So we're gonna just start off with a little bit of glue right here, because then what we can do afterwards is go put in more once. Okay, we got it centered. Now we're also gonna come and glue right here on the ear. And this will also help keep it in place a little bit. Now we're going to take our little Minnie button, stick her on there. And there we go. Your own set of mini Mickey Mouse ears. All done.
Hello, my name is Monica Massapelli from the New Hampshire Treasury. The unique college investment plan is New Hampshire's tax advantage 529 college savings plan, open to all U.S. residents, and is a proud supporter of the Children's Museum of New Hampshire and sponsor of this year's virtual Maker Fest event. The New Hampshire Maker and Food Fest offers activities and experiments for families with children that want to explore and learn. The unique college investment plan is encouraged by the creativity and curiosity of this event that helps children discover and pursue their future dreams. We are proud to put those dreams into motion as families save for their children's education with the unique 529 plan.